Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Our Golden 20s. We are jumping into a fun topic today, doing a little bit of a reality check as we, come off of last week's mental health episode. We thought it would be a great time to talk about, comparing yourself to others and the role social media plays within mental health and just kind of like, the role plays in our lives altogether these days. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And it's an episode we're very excited for.
Yeah, this kind of idea I feel like started because we've been getting so many like nice DMs and messages from people who listen to the podcast, which is like amazing, something I never expected. And a lot of people had said like, I listened to your podcast, I took what you said and it's improved my life. Thank you so much. You've inspired me. And it was like, whoa, that's a crazy thing to hear because my perspective of myself is not that positive. And so to have like that outside like validation that like, hey, you're doing things good and you've inspired me to improve this aspect of my life is like crazy. And so it's taken like now we're on episode 11 and it's kind of weird to like wrap your head around because like at the same time, sure, we're inspirational for an hour a week, but there's a lot more times and you see us posting on our Golden 20s on Instagram, our perfect little setup, not pictured could be like the pile of laundry or the dishes in the sink,
100%. Or the bags under my eyes.
Yeah.
That's always the telling tale of me.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I feel like it's good for us to talk about because it's like we, have spent 10 episodes being like, just work on yourself, move your body and journal. And it's like, well, sometimes it's not that easy.
Totally. That's it, 100%. And we've said this so many times in past episodes where it is like you're constantly having to put effort into being your best self. And I think this episode hopefully is fun. Me and Tegan just kind of ripping ourselves apart in a way. But also just saying that, yes, like Tegan said, we show up an hour every week to try to empower and inspire you guys to live your best lives. But that is something that we are constantly putting effort into for ourselves as well. And we are by no means perfect and just like inspirational all the time. So this will be a good one. So let's start first, though, with our Tuesday 10 segment. As you guys know, we've done this once before. We have just 10 things that we are currently loving in our everyday lives that we wanted to share with you. So, Teg, do you want to start the list off with 5 things?
Sure. So, like, we're back in crazy lockdown here in Toronto. Well, technically, Toronto never left lockdown, but
that's true.
It feels worse now that it seems like official because everyone's in lockdown again. Mm-hmm. And so it's been hard to kind of come up with things that I actually find are like making me happy or inspiring me, but I racked my brain to come up. It's so sad. It's hard to come up with like 5 things that are exciting, but I hope I spent a lot of mental energy coming up with these. So number 1 is the movie Nomadland, which is starring Frances McDormand and is directed by Chloe Zhao, I think you pronounce her name. And it is nominated for like a ton of Oscars. It is statistically most likely to win Best Picture, Best Director, and it is coming to Disney Plus very shortly in Canada. I really liked it. I thought it was a very interesting movie. It's based off of a nonfiction book, I'm pretty sure. And so if you are interested in maybe seeing some of the Oscar movies before you watch them, this is definitely the one to watch because it's most likely going to win, which would be very exciting because then that would be the second ever female director to win Best Director. So fingers crossed.
We can always count on you to bring a movie recommendation to this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and it's a good one. And she, like the story of the movie is the person Frances McDormand played lost her job and lost her home, so she has to live in a van, and so she like travels around and does different like odd jobs. And so I also feel like it's a good locked in at home movie because she's traveling, but she's still locked in with her kind of circumstance. So yeah, that's my number one. On top of that, I've been trying as part of my glow up to move my body, and I've been really loving the Chloe Ting workouts, which I feel like if there's any like Gen Z listening to this, will be like, girl, this is so like last year. Why are you talking about this? But I just got into it now. And I just really, really love it, especially because I'm not like a huge workout person. Like I like yoga sometimes. I like doing dance. Like I don't like just strictly working out, but her stuff for some reason I really, really like. So I've been loving that.
You know what's so funny? I followed her on Instagram for a long time, and it was just like recently, like I want to say maybe last year or the year before, where I realized she has like a whole fitness YouTube channel, and I was like, oh, okay, I get it. So I definitely checked that out, but I was following her like being in the dark on what she's like most popular or most known for. So yeah, I felt like an idiot then, but I need to try some of her videos. I've heard really good things.
Well, I feel like they went insanely viral last March. Like it was right at the beginning of quarantine. Everyone was like, I'm going to come out of quarantine and be ripped. And she has these like videos that are like shredded in 2 weeks or abs in 2 weeks. Right. And so it was like those kinds of things, because we thought quarantine would only last 2 weeks. Yeah. They blew up like crazy, but I'm just getting into it now.
Yeah. Awesome.
On top of that, I've been really into the band Surfaces.
That it was a good day, not much to do but just lay around. Yeah, it was a good day. I'm so glad the sun stayed around. Yeah, it was a good day. Not much to do.
I feel like they're a good spring band. I don't know, they're very good for like any situation. Like if I put them on when I'm cleaning, I'm like, oh yeah, chill vibes, let's go. I can play them when I'm working and it's like not distracting. Or if I want to have a dance party, I don't know, they just like
they tick
scratch
all the boxes.
Every itch. Yeah. So I've been rocking out to them a bunch. My tip number 4 is that I recently got a gel nail lamp for home, because obviously can't go get my nails done. And I'm the type of person, if I don't have paint on my nails, I bite them, which I don't like. But then I'm also the type of person, this is just me talking about how crazy I am, but I'm also the type of person who, if I have any chips in my nails, I have to take the nail polish off like right away.
Yeah.
So then it's like I paint my nails, they last for like a day and a half, get chipped, I take them off, and then I bite my nails.
Right.
So I got the whole kit, got all my gel colors, and then that lasts anywhere from like a week to 2 weeks. So I've been loving that, and it's really, really easy.
Yeah.
I always thought it was like a whole thing, but no, super easy.
Nice.
And my last tip number 5, is to check out the HBO documentary series Into the Storm. I just finished it. The newest episodes just came out last night, because we're recording this on a Monday, and it was crazy and so good. It's about like QAnon and 8chan and their like connections to Trump and everything. And it's like scary. Like it literally gave me nightmares every time I watched an episode. And I watched stuff about like serial killers and like no problem sleeping, but for some reason this was just so creepy to me. But I think it's because I'm so interested in like social media and the power that it has, because this really tells the story of like these nerds who start a website and it gets kind of taken over by the alt-right, and how it led to like 3 mass shootings, and then it leads to the insurrection, and it's protected by laws in America, social media, like you can't sue, or rather the websites can't be held liable for what the creators are posting there. And so there are certain websites like 8chan and everything that were just like cesspools of craziness. And yeah, it's very, very crazy and interesting. And it's like, I can't stop thinking about it. So I feel like if you're into like political science and you're into the role that like social media plays into that, it's a really interesting doc to check out. And it's HBO. So if you have Crave here in Canada, you can watch it.
Yeah. Interesting. Man,
That
you
is my
like
5.
covered, I feel like everybody can find something from your list of 5 things. That's awesome. Amazing. So I will complete this list of 10 with 5 more things. So first on my list is a book that I just finished maybe a few weeks ago now. I don't fully remember, but it was such a good read. It's called Act Like a Lady, and it's there's 3 authors, Becca Tobin, Jack Vanek, and Kelty Knight, but they are the hosts of the Lady Gang podcast, which is a super popular, just kind of like girl chat, kind of, I guess, like women empowerment podcast. So they wrote a book, and I thought the book was really good. Like they each would take turns like sharing like a life story as like a different chapter. Like it was kind of like Chicken Soup for the Soul, like kind of thing, you know, where it was like every chapter, like I guess like mini essay was like a real life experience from them. But they had some crazy stories, and I really enjoyed reading it. I wouldn't say it was like super inspirational or even like a self-help book. I think they're, trying to go self-help book, but it was just a really good, fun, entertaining read. So I definitely recommend that.
I remember meeting Jack Vanek at Warped Tour
Oh, yeah.
so long ago.
I was going to say I also really love that because she talks so much about Warped Tour and like her role and like kind of just like that was her life and like how her brand and her business got started. So I have no idea who she was. When I looked at pictures, I was like, okay, she looks familiar, but I had no idea who she was. And all of a sudden she's going on about Warped Tour and all these bands and like MySpace and like all this stuff, and I was just like, wow, this is hitting close to home and I'm loving this. So yes, that's number 1 on my list. Number 2 is another like YouTube fitness channel I've been loving is Move with Nicole, and she does Pilates and some like yoga exercises and like just full body workouts, but I find her Pilates videos are really great, like no equipment required, and it's a really, really good workout, and she's like super inspirational. Like I just love the way she talks, and like her scene is always so like relaxing even though you're like shaking from doing her workout. So I've really been enjoying that. Then after that type of workout, I like to take a bubble bath. So I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I am not a bubble bath person, or at least I wasn't up until recently. And everybody's always surprised to find that out about me because they think I'm like always talking about self-care and self-love. And for some reason, people just associate that with bubble baths, which I don't know why, but they do. So when people are like, wait, you don't like bubble baths, but I thought you love self-care. It's just this funny, I don't know, thing that goes hand in hand, it seems. Yeah. So anyways, I just recently though started taking like one bubble bath on the weekend, like every week on the weekend. And I went into Lush a week ago and I got some bubble bars, and they are all really fantastic, but my favorite one that I'm recommending to everybody is called Singing Daffodil, and it's literally in the shape of a daffodil. But it's a reusable bubble bar, so it gave me 2 baths worth of bubbles, and it's like hollow in the middle, so you can run your water under it and then blow bubbles through it while you're in the tub. So it's just so like cute and fun, and it smells so good, makes your skin feel so good. So I'm recommending that to everybody. Plus it's very, springy and like seasonal, so love that. And then last on my list, which is maybe annoying of me to do, but I'm going to talk about how much I love our Glow Up playlist on Spotify, as well as our Warm Feelings playlist. I have these 2 playlists on repeat, like every day, or all day, every day, I should say. Usually I'm listening to like Warm Feelings and like the morning, afternoon, and then by the time later afternoon hits or my evening hits and I'm like needing to get like hyped up and pumped up to either, go for a walk or just like keep the energy going through to be productive through the afternoon and night, I'll turn on our Glow Up playlist, and it's just so good. Tegan primarily like curates these playlists, guys, and I'm not kidding. They're good stuff. So check it out. Follow us on Spotify to check them out for yourself.
Love that.
Not to toot our own horn, but those playlists are pretty fire.
Yeah, I do rock those playlists quite a bit.
Yeah.
I go through like phases with them, I think, but
yeah,
like sometimes I'm like really into the Warmer Feelings one, and then sometimes I'm like, ugh, not in the mood.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
I need to check out the Surfaces band. I've never heard of them.
Yeah, I don't know if I've put them on any of the playlists. Maybe what we should do is make a playlist that's everything, like anytime we mention a band or a song, we could like add it to the playlist, and then it's just
that's a good idea.
A growing one, because I know like you've mentioned Justin Bieber before and like we talked about Lorde and,
that's a good idea. I was literally gonna add Justin Bieber's album to my like Tuesday 10, and I was like, no, the listeners have heard me talk about Justin Bieber enough already. But his whole album is out now, and it is amazing, and I think we should create that playlist and add the whole album to that playlist.
Exactly.
So funny.
So for the main part of the episode, what we really wanted to talk about was comparing yourself to others. And a big chunk of that, I feel like, comes from social media nowadays.
Totally.
And that was why part of the Glow Up Challenge, we talked about having screen-free time, whether that's like before bed so you can, shut your brain off, or even I think scheduling time in general, just to have sort of like a reality check of, scrolling through Instagram isn't the same thing as seeing these people in real life, because people are showing them your highlight reel, basically.
100%. And I think, especially while we're all at home, it's especially easy to make life look so much better, on our Instagram than how we're actually feeling. Like we talked last week about how everybody's going through something right now, but a lot of people aren't, showcasing that on social media. For, their own right, like that's fine. I do love though how there has been kind of like an emergence of like sharing resources and, a little bit more transparency in social media, and I hope that continues, because I feel like just people's self-confidence is really but it has been tanking for kind of years on end, and like you said, can be tied so much to social media. And I find it so interesting because I work in social full time, so I get asked this all the time, is like, how can you sleep at night knowing you contribute to kind of this problem? And to be honest with you, like, I totally see the effects from like a personal standpoint, and I definitely understand how people, like, it's affecting people without them even noticing. I work in like social media advertising, so I feel there's a whole different side of it once you're like starting to talk about, just advertising in general and kind of using social as a brand. So that's kind of how I differentiate. But I've always found, Tag, like you were saying at the beginning of this episode, that anytime I post things on my personal Instagram, people reach out to me and are like, oh, like, guys, I'm not kidding, it's like the most random things. Like I remember one weekend I was like, I'm just gonna do like little snippets of my day, kind of like vlog day of my lifestyle, before that was like actually like a thing. So I remember I got up, I walked to yoga, and like outside my yoga studio there was like this nice garden, and people, like, it was like a beautiful sunny day, and people messaged me being like, wow, this looks like such like an ideal Saturday morning going to yoga. Then I came home and I like just recouped, went to the grocery store, came home, laid out my groceries, posted that on my social media, and people again like responded being like, oh my god, like, you inspired me to get up, stop being lazy, to like do groceries. So that's like one of these many instances where I feel people just reach out and comment on what I'm doing based on like what I post on social. But like you were saying, Tag, there's like a large part of my life that obviously I don't share on social like everybody. And, it's not always me just smiling and dancing around my living room like a lot of people know me as, like drinking wine and like eating healthy foods that I get from the grocery store. Like there is a whole other, part of my life that I don't share online. But the one thing that I find I love about social media, and I feel there's like a fine line between this being a healthy and unhealthy thing, is I've always, since people respond to the content I put on social, it encourages me to do it and like do more. And it motivates me, where I'm like, if I know that me going to the grocery store and coming home, because guys, I don't have a car, so like going and getting groceries is a big deal for me. Like it takes a lot of self-talk to convince myself to go to the grocery store, knowing I have to carry everything home. So knowing that, when I lay out my groceries at the end of this and there's a chance I encourage somebody else to get their groceries, it encourages me and motivates me to actually go do that task. Or picking out a restaurant, there's so many places you could go, but I always like to choose somewhere that was like Instagrammable, get the shot, but also enjoy the meal. So it's kind of like this balance of, I use social as a way to like encourage myself or motivate myself to do things, or, go the extra mile with how cute my charcuterie board is for dinner that night for the Insta, but it's because I enjoy doing it and because I'm going to enjoy it once that picture is taken. It's not that I'm just, everything I'm doing is living for content and, like living to make a Instagram post or something, because I don't think that's healthy, but I don't know. I wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah. Well, I find a lot of the people I follow who are, richer than me and they're skinnier than me and they're prettier than me, I am 99% of the time just inspired and motivated by that.
Yeah.
Like it very rarely affects me negatively, but I am also like an adult who, I know like what I'm about, and I'm not trying to change myself into someone else. So like I understand that that's me coming from like my perspective, and obviously if you're a teen, seeing that kind of stuff can be a lot more damaging. But that's why I feel like it's important to curate the people you follow and be mindful of it, because if there's someone who you're following on social media, even if it's a friend, and you are not feeling good when you're seeing their posts, like unfollow or mute, like we talked about before.
Yeah.
Because like there's nothing to do nowadays because we're all locked in our house. And if every time you're scrolling through Instagram, you're feeling bad, like that's not good. It should be a place where you are finding content that motivates you and inspires you and connects you to other people who, think the same way about things. So
yeah, totally. And I think that's a big part of how I determine, who I follow, and if I ever come across a post or a story and it makes me feel a certain type of way, the first thing I do is go to their profile. If it's a friend, like you said, it's just like easy mute. We know that's my new favorite thing to do. So if it just makes me feel anything besides like, happy and like inspired or like, content in some way, then I'll either mute or unfollow. Especially influencers. I feel like I followed so many influencers and I just recently went through and was like, remove that, like a lot of their content, because it wasn't super inspirational. But I really prioritize following people who show kind of that journey and show the process. They're not just showing up on their Instagram at the end result. They're showing you, a lot of influencers now, for instance, have launched businesses. So I always follow people who are showing the process of their business and like even sometimes the struggle of the business. I know it's uncomfortable to share your struggles, and I'm not on social media like sharing my struggles by any means, but people who do that I have a lot of respect for. And then when they do have, their business or their product come to life, you just feel connected, first of all, as just like a follower because you feel you're kind of part of it. But it's also like I have so much more respect for them because I know what went into it. And also I'm not comparing, that cliche saying that's like, don't compare your day one on your fitness journey to like a personal trainer who's been doing this for 10 years,
Yeah.
So I always like to be able to see the process versus just the end result or glamorizing the success story that social media does. I always want to be there for like the journey. I want to know everything about it. So that's like really helped me in like deciding who to follow and even I guess kind of what to post on my own personal Instagram or social channels as well.
Yeah, and I feel that maybe we come from, well, not me, this has nothing to do with me. You come from a unique perspective where you are like creating and curating content on social as your job. So you're seeing the full behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So you're aware that like, oh yeah, that one Instagram picture that's been posted, oh, well, there were like a team of 25 people who went into this and, there was a writer who wrote the caption and blah, 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 where people, I don't think, know that.
Yeah, that's actually such a good point because that is it 100%. And in my last job, I had a lot of kind of like, I had a lot of visibility into the PR and influencer side of things as well. So I know what, is it part of these contracts? And I think, like you were saying, Take, like I'm really not phased too much in a negative way from what I see on social. But I think it's exactly for what you said is I'm just so aware of what all goes into it or like, even a influencer working with a brand, like I'm aware and just like, I don't know, I know what kind of went into it to get them to that post and therefore it like phases, it's not a huge impact on me, I guess, and I'm especially like a negative impact, but that is so true, especially in content creation. Like I think I shared in one of our past episodes that one of my past jobs was doing photo shoots, and I think this is actually a great Instagram versus reality moment. Was I did these photo shoots and they were usually 1 or 2 days, and it was literally the most stressful part of my job. And the number one reason I started feeling any type of anxiety was over these shoots and how much work it took to do these shoots. And the content we got was mainly used on social, also in emails, on our website. Like, they were brand photo shoots, but it was so much work to get that content. It was like, me coordinating models, locations, photographers, stylists, then the actual product that we were shooting, getting it from stores, it was so much work. And by the time the actual shoot day came around, I was just so stressed out and anxious about it all. And I'd come home, literally like get the door closed and immediately start crying because it was just like a stress release one day down. But in this instance, I was also, proud to be on those shoots, and everybody else viewed it as a fun part of my job. So on my personal Instagram, I was often, taking a Instagram story of the set or, of the models goofing around because it was fun to the outside world, but not anybody knew that I was like struggling with anxiety around these shoots. So I guess that's a little bit of a Instagram versus reality example for me.
Yeah, and I feel like that trend's getting like really big right now on TikTok and Instagram is like, yeah, here's the picture, but here's the story that went into it, or here's like the background that you don't know. And it's funny to think that every single post that you see has like a background story that you have no idea about. Like my most liked Instagram post, I think, is still my engagement picture. It's either that or like a wedding picture, because I always see that it's like your wedding is basically spending $30,000 to have one really liked Instagram post. But so it's either my engagement picture or my wedding pictures. But like the amount of time and thought that went into it, like I had already got engaged on a vacation, and I had already had pictures saved on my Pinterest of like,
yeah.
when I get engaged, these are the things we can do. And so like, obviously there's time that goes into that, and then picking the proper one. And then like we had to go find a location to go take these pictures, and we took a whole bunch of them. And like my husband got super sunburnt, and so he couldn't be in the pictures. And we were like struggling, and a random homeless man was like, "Can I help you take these pictures?" And we were like, okay, I guess. And like, you know, like there's all these little things. But then I didn't say that in the caption. I wasn't like, shout out to the homeless guy who helped me take this picture. My husband's
Photo
on
credit.
it because he's sunburned. Yeah, exactly. So it's just like, those are the things that no one sees. And then the amount of time my mom and I spent coming up with the caption, and we were like, we have to have a hashtag. We gave up on the hashtag after about like literally 3 hours of trying to come up with a caption, because it's like, you don't want it to be lame, you want it to be cool.
Yeah.
But it's just like so much time and work. And then the post goes up, and it's like, oh my gosh, look how effortless we just got engaged.
Yeah.
When it's like, that is not the reality at all.
Yeah, that is so true. And I'm sorry I was laughing, because even as your friend, I didn't know like 90% of that story.
Yeah.
So that is so funny. And I think though, that's just like, I hope it's becoming normal for people to view these types of images and realize that there's a lot they don't know, rather
Right,
than
yeah.
just looking at that picture being like, somehow taking it personally and being like, oh, like, this is so perfect. Like, Tegan's just so pretty. Her ring is gorgeous. Like, she's in Hawaii living her dream life. Like, I hope we're getting to a point where people, you know that you're just posting this and like, yeah, I guess celebrating this moment, you know?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I don't know. It's just so funny to think about.
Yeah, the one thing on top of like the pictures and the work goes into pictures, I remember after I posted that, some of my friends were like, oh, I want to get engaged so bad and he won't do it, blah, blah, blah. So like on top of the things not pictured, it's like not pictured are the conversations we've had about that. And, you know,
Yeah.
the ring that was purchased like 8 months before, and all this stuff that seemingly comes together effortlessly.
Yeah. That
When
is
in fact
such a
there's
good
like
point.
so much work, so much effort, so many like conversations about it.
Yeah.
And that's every single Instagram picture that you see
Literally.
is like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. From my end, it's a lot of, like I said, like the day to day stuff. It often like creating content like inspires me to do that stuff and like do it in like
Mhm.
a beautiful, nice way. But that's just also part of who I am, because I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm a Libra moon, and apparently that's something we value.
Oh,
But
sure.
yeah. But anyways, I think that kind of like what you're talking about, Tag, really comes to light for me when I'm traveling. And I also
Right.
I just feel like this happens to everybody, where nobody is ever like 100% super happy, having the best time of their life on a trip. Like,
Mhm.
traveling is stressful and like takes a lot of coordination, like you're saying, a lot of planning. The weather is out of your control, you know. So I feel like you get pictures, like I'm thinking even to our New York trip, or when I went to
Mhm.
Bali, like, you know, we're in New York, we're in Washington Square Park, we're standing there smiling, looking happy, but we've probably been walking around all day and are exhausted, you know? And
Mhm.
I remember, Tag, when we were in New York, like it was super windy and we were like freezing our asses off like 90% of the trip. Like, you know,
Yeah.
so that part doesn't come through in the picture. And also, I think on my Bali trip, I have this picture where I'm sitting on one of the Bali swings, and you know, I'm like
Mhm.
swinging out over kind of like the edge of like this cliff, and there's like really beautiful trees and scenery around me, and I'm wearing like this yellow floral shirt or dress, sorry, and it's flowing out behind me. But it's exact same as like your engagement story, where it's like that
Mhm.
day I was actually extremely dehydrated because I went to Bali, you know, in March, and that's their like hottest, most humid time of year. So it was like so hot and humid. I was so sweaty.
Mhm.
I was dehydrated, where I was like delusional, like I couldn't hold a conversation. Like, I was sitting in line waiting for this swing all by myself because my friends were like, we don't know what's wrong with you, but you just sit here, wait for your swing. We're going to walk around and explore. And then I was on this swing, and it was still like a lot of fun, you know, but it was very much for the picture. It wasn't like you could just swing. It was like you swing 3 times, you get your picture, you get off. The next girl in their floral dress gets on, swings, gets their picture, and we keep the line moving. So it was literally just a setup for the Instagram, and you don't know that when you look at that picture. You know, you think that's just where I was hanging out that afternoon, but no, I was dehydrated, I was sweaty, I was literally just doing that for 3 swings. Oh, and the other best part of that whole story is apparently the whole time I was on the swing, my dress kept flying up, so everybody just was seeing my butt the entire time I was on the swing. That didn't make the Instagram.
Yeah, that's the real reality.
Yeah, it is.
It's like, yeah, you get the cute pic, but
and I think but literally, and I think that's one of my top liked Instagram posts as well, and it's like nobody has any idea that that's what was going on.
Yeah, and it's like I feel like we together have been to like destinations, like we went to Dumbo on our New York trip, and it's like there's nothing there except for all people taking Instagram pics. So you have to fight through the people, like taking Instagram pics. And I've heard a lot of Bali is like that. So it's like you see, oh my God, they're having so much fun on their trip. But it's like in reality, everyone else has just found out this is the best spot to take your like New York picture or your Bali picture.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
There's one girl I follow on Instagram. I forget her name, but she's from Australia. Her first name's Angela. I just don't remember her handle right now. And she's posted a few kind of like Instagram versus reality pictures, and she's a travel influencer. So she's always, you know, in these beautiful, like iconic landmarks in all these cities she goes to, and there's not a single person in her shot, but then you swipe and you see the actual shot, and she's just literally photoshopped everybody out. And or she'll stay in these hotels. This is another one that does kind of actually strike me and like impact me is when people stay in hotels, for instance, like in New York or even like in Toronto, and they pose in front of like their window, and right outside their window is this beautiful skyline. You know, these pictures, and it's like, you know, just like hanging out in bed, and my hotel room is beautiful and the skyline's beautiful right out my window. So she's posted, this Angela girl has posted a few of these as well, but she always photoshops the skyline into the window or like brightens it. So, you know, it looks like it's like a night scene when she actually took that picture in the day. And it's like, first of all, I'm glad she's like transparent with that, because I'm somebody who's like, where is that hotel? What is the room number? Because I want the exact same, you know, view and the exact same picture. But it doesn't actually exist. So I feel like it's good she's transparent, but at the same time, why even pretend you're living this fabulous life when it's not real at all, you know? And it's not, especially the hotel room, that literally does not exist. But the other, you know, travel destinations where she photoshops people out, it's like, that is not realistic or like achievable for other people. So the thought wouldn't even occur to me to Photoshop people out. But then
it's interesting because everyone's, I think, like line is different. So like when I first started using Instagram, back when it like launched, it was like you would either take a picture in, like you would take it in the Instagram app, swipe on a filter, and that was the end of it. So then it's like, okay, well now people, you know, they pre-plan destinations and they go to these destinations to get a good picture because they know this is where I get the good picture. But then on top of that, you might bring outfit changes so that it looks like you've been doing this over multiple days when really it's just been a whole one-day photo shoot. And then on top of that, you have filters. And on top of that, you have Facetune. And on top of that, you have Photoshop. And like it piles on and on and on. And it's kind of up to you to decide where to draw the line.
Yeah.
And it's different for everyone. So, you know, travel influencers, some of their like photoshops and filters are crazy and make it look like a completely different place. but that's their job and that's what's expected of them. So it's not necessarily like morally wrong, but it would be so weird if I was like taking pictures outside of my house and like photoshopping in the CN Tower and, you know, face tuning my face.
Yeah.
But then there are other people who I'm sure do that. Like,
yeah, 100%.
It's just like, it's not like there's laws about it. You just have to kind of decide how far you want to take it.
Yeah. I've seen, like, I subscribe to the Newsette email, and it's just like a newsletter kind of talking about, like, you know, whatever is happening in the world, but it's like very catered for like millennial women. And I forget what they were talking about. I think it was like, I don't know, maybe a new makeup launch or something that they were just talking about. But they're like, so you don't need to basically like touch up your face in your Instagram photos because this makeup's like that good in real life. And basically they were like, because we all know we touch up our faces in our Instagram photos. And I was like, is that really that common and like that popular? Like, does literally everybody do this? Because I do not. Like, it just doesn't feel morally right. Because I feel like, and like you're saying, like some people, maybe it does boost their confidence, but I feel for me, if I were manipulating the way I look in any way, or, you know, I'll still like, I guess, put filters on to like make colors slightly different, but I don't ever like touch up my skin in any way, or like shrink my waist, or like make my butt or my boobs bigger. Like, that's just not right to me. But anyways, just how they called it out in this email just came back when you were talking, like, came to mind. And I was like, apparently people do this because, like, people just think it's normal. And, oh, what I was going to say is I feel it would affect my self-confidence looking, like, at other people who are perfect, like, in quotes, perfect. But it would also affect my self-confidence looking at a picture of myself where I've, you know, tweaked it to be perfect, because that's not even who I am when I, like, look in the mirror, you know? So it's just, like, it's just fucked up. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's so strange. And that's why it's so hard because like you were saying, don't compare your day 1 to someone else's day 300. Don't compare your like raw face to someone else's like face-tuned, photoshopped look. Totally. Because it's like, the hard thing is, how do you tell? Well, you can't really, unless they're bad at it. But that's why I feel like with all of this, it's like having the awareness, or opening Instagram with the assumption that everything you're seeing is manufactured and touched up. Yeah. And then if it isn't, well, whatever. But then, you know, you are working with that assumption.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. 100%.
Back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the episode, where I was saying people are saying the stuff they hear is inspirational. I was like, what? Like, what? Who are we to tell people, like, to do any of this stuff? Because we're not anything special. But that's the thing with, like, everyone on Instagram, especially with the rise of influencers. Like, most of these people are just average people, and they're faking it until they make it, or they're really good at Photoshop, or whatever the deal is. You know, everyone's just a person is kind of what I'm trying to say. And everyone's coming from starting at the same sort of spot. And so if you're seeing people who are posting these like images that are so inspirational, and, you know, they're just a person, and you could be doing the same kind of stuff and inspiring the people in your circle and in your life, like Sadie, who, you know, posts a picture of her groceries and encourages people to eat healthy. Like, it's not that you're flying to Bali every week and being like, look at me on the swing, you know. Yeah. Even like the little things can inspire. And by being aware, I think, and going into Instagram with the awareness, you can make your life better, because you are consuming content through the lens of, I know this is probably photoshopped, but that doesn't mean that it won't inspire me or encourage me to live my best life.
Totally. I think that's it exactly, is don't use it as a way to, you know, compare where you're at compared to where someone else is at. It's just like, if anything, take it as inspiration, because it is like you're saying, a lot of it is doable. And I've found that too with people. They're like, I couldn't just, I find people always comment on any charcuterie board we make tag. And it's like, we literally just bought
Yeah.
cheese, put meat and crackers on a board. Like anybody
Yeah.
could do this, but a lot of people
Mhm.
just feel like they can't for whatever reason. And it's like, just, like take things as like, I don't know, inspirational versus like comparing if you were to do this, what it would look like compared to that
Mhm.
person. It's just like, yeah, if you see something you like, let it inspire you rather than like question your worth kind of thing in any way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And because like everyone's going through different stuff, like you're probably following people who are like insanely wealthy.
Yeah.
And of course they can, go on a trip once a week and do this, that, and whatever. But having the realization of like you're in the place where you are and you still have stuff that's great. You still
Mhm.
have stuff that's, Instagrammable. And that you still can kind of just like live your life even outside of Instagram, I guess.
Yeah. And I think if you are somebody who posts, or sorry, I cannot speak. I think if you're somebody who posts on, social media a lot, keep that in mind, and like the content you're putting out there as well. Like Tegan said earlier, like literally any type of content can inspire the most random people without you even intending to. But you'll be surprised that when you show up in a way that is not perfect and is not curated, and you spend hours and hours, putting time into this picture, those like the really quick, authentic shots and stories, those are going to be what resonates with people, and that's what's going to generate likes or get people reaching out to you. It's when you stop trying, that's the kind of content people really resonate with for all these reasons we're talking about, because they just relate to it. They can picture themselves in that situation. So I think it's important, as we're saying this as consuming content, but also the content you're putting out there, is keep that lens too. Like don't try not to be that person who's making people feel like shit about themselves by putting so much effort into your post, and then also don't let it take a toll on your confidence when it doesn't get all the likes and comments and shares that you thought it was gonna get, and you'll honestly be surprised that when you show up and share part of the journey or the process or your struggle with people, I really think you'll be surprised at how many people reach out to you being like, oh my God, today was a bad day for me too, or it makes me feel so much better knowing you also struggle with this. Like, I think social media is meant to connect people, and it just blew up and like got out of control where it wasn't connecting people in a good way anymore, But I feel like when you do show up in a way that isn't perfect, that's when that connection comes back, and you'll feel so much better about yourself that way too. At least that's been my experience.
Yeah, and I feel like if you're faking it, as far as like, I couldn't, post this travel pic because I'm not a travel influencer. Like, if you're faking that you are, because why not? Then it's like those kind of like doubts and bad feelings start to go away. If you're just like authentically living your life and taking these pictures, like there's no reason not to, post them and share them, whether they're imperfect or you spend a lot of time on them. Or I have moments where it's like, well, why should I post this? Because I'm not an influencer and that would be weird. But it's like, well, why not? Because this is still, my life and what I'm going through. And the more kind of like honesty and positivity that gets out there, like that's never gonna hurt anyone.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're lying and you're like, I've been happy 365 days, like that's weird. Maybe it would hurt someone. But I think just like creating content that's positive and trying to, like you said, connect with people, like that's never a bad thing.
100%. I couldn't agree more.
So I wanted to end this episode by reading an essay. And this is from the same book we talked about a while ago. I don't know, like maybe at one of the first episodes, but it's by Brianna Wiest, and it's 101 essays that will change the way you think. So I read one way back in the day about being in your 20s. But I wanted to read this essay called 20 Signs You're Doing Better Than You Think You Are, because I feel like when you're scrolling through Instagram and you're following these, wealthy people with perfect bodies and they're traveling around the world, it's easy to kind of be like, ugh, my life is so boring, or like I have nothing to take a picture of, or just like bogged down. So these are 20 signs you are doing better than you think you are. Number 1, you paid the bills this month and maybe even had extra to spend on non-essentials. Number 2, you question yourself, you doubt your life, you feel miserable some days, because that means you're still open to growth. This means you can be objective and self-aware. Number 3, you have a job. Number 4, you have time to do something you enjoy, even if what you enjoy is sitting on the couch and ordering dinner and watching Netflix. Number 5, you are not worried about where your next meal is coming from. Number 6, you can eat because you enjoy it. It's not a matter of sheer survival. Number 7, you have 1 or 2 truly close friends. Number 8, you could afford a subway ride, cup of coffee, or the gas in your car this morning. Number 9, you're not the same person you were a year ago. You're learning and evolving and can identify the ways in which you've changed for better and worse. 10, you have the time and means to do things beyond the bare minimum. 11, you have a selection of clothes at your disposal. You aren't worried about having a hat or gloves in a blizzard. You have cool clothes for the summer and something to wear to a wedding. 12, you can sense what isn't right in your life. The first and most crucial step is simply being aware. 13, if you could talk to your younger self, you would be able to say, we did it, we made it out, we survived that terrible thing. 14, you have a space of your own. 15, you've lost relationships. 16, you're interested in something. 17, you know how to take care of yourself. 18, you're working toward a goal. 19, but you're not uncompromisingly set on anything for the future. And 20, you've been through some crap. And I feel like some of those things, especially, it's like you need a wake-up call sometimes that, yeah, sure, you can't afford to go on a vacation to Hawaii, but you have cute clothes and you can take a subway stop to a park, and you can afford that. And those... because it's like that little stuff that makes up 23 hours of your day, say. And so it's that little stuff that makes up your life.
Totally. I love that so much. Those are just good little reminders. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Because I think it is so common we get bogged down with these big ideas that we just, see in social. And it's just so important to just do a little reality check and be like, you know what? No, I'm killing it right now.
Yeah, and because those little things aren't what people are posting on Instagram.
Exactly.
Like you're not seeing the influencer who's wearing like a crazy huge hat and gloves and scarf because it's a blizzard outside. Yeah. But those are the things that everyone needs to have in their day-to-day, and you have them. Yeah. So you're lucky.
100%. Yeah. I love that. Tag. Killed it again. Good essay.
Every time I read from the book, I feel like I'm reading from the Bible.
Well, we're just like, yes, girl. Yes. Everything you say.
This is so my Bible. Yeah.
So
I think, that must be the only time I've read aloud from a book. So like church camp or something. So anyways.
So funny. Yeah. Well, I think that's a good spot to leave it for today. Just reminding you guys that everything you see on social media is not, real or realistic for every single person. Do not let it affect you and make you feel like you are not enough, because you are more than enough. And Tegan and I talking for an hour every week on this podcast about living our best lives doesn't mean that we don't have bad days, doesn't mean that we don't have struggles, doesn't mean, that we are we have this figured out, because I think the most reassuring thing I've learned as an adult is that nobody has it figured out. Nobody can, achieve like infinite happiness and, like you said, like infinite wealth and infinite travel and Instagram content. Like it is a constant work in progress, and we are in this together.
Yeah, absolutely. And by you, I think, like, listening to this podcast, taking time to try and consume, content that inspires and empowers you, you're on the first step to living a better life. Like, you're obviously interested in this, and you're showing up for yourself. And so it's, just going to get better from here, I think.
Yeah. And I think we all suffer from a bit of imposter syndrome, but the fact you are showing up for yourself and, you are choosing for yourself who you follow, what kinds of content you take in, I think that's just one way of showing up for yourself. So that is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of content that you follow, you can find us at Our Golden 20s on Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, Pinterest. We have a Patreon page that has exclusive content, as well as we drop all of the episodes early there. So if you are just an avid listener who needs your fix a little early, that is a great place to get it. And we appreciate all of our patrons. Yeah, so we put out a new episode every single Tuesday. We will see you next week.